Silicon Valley is acting as a council of censors. They cancel people. When mobs come after somebody, they will pull them down. They shadow ban people, which creates partisan echo chambers. And honestly, they are some of the major reasons why this country is divided for doing what they're doing. And the worst part about this, Silicon Valley thinks they know better than you.
You know, I went in and I took a look at that bill, and I have three major takeaways after reading the summary. I'm going to refer to my notes, but let's bite these off one at a time. So the
Yeah,
first
no
one,
doubt. I mean, we got to read this thing a little more. Obviously, this just came out today, but we're just biting off some chunks. It's big enough that we got together to talk about it,
yeah, no
so
doubt.
it's important to go over.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, here's the first part that I took a note on. It says the bill prohibits a social media platform from willfully deplatforming a candidate for political office and allows the Florida Elections Commission to fine a social media platform $250,000 per day for deplatforming a candidate for statewide office and $25,000 per day for deplatforming any other candidate.
Yeah, the message is clear right there. I think it's stay away from our politicians. So you're not going to pull any of that Trump shit in a local Florida state election. You don't get to just make a political a political representative go away in the internet sphere. And this is what I was telling you earlier, Jack. Is like I'm Mr. Free Market, Mr. Leave everybody alone. There's other companies. Maybe let MeWe or one of these others take over. But the reality of the matter is, when it comes to these companies, and is there collusion? And this is what makes it antitrust. This is what makes them go after them. This is what gets them in trouble. It's the fact that they collude, that they
Right.
don't just shut you down on one platform. Oh, you shut down on Facebook, but you can still go to Twitter, or you can still no. They shut you down all the way down the platform rank where you just can no longer speak. And the reality of the matter is, these are now. I could tell you where this is headed. This is headed. Number one, I would not be shocked to see Facebook restrict IP addresses in Florida and
That's
just say we're just not going to deal with Florida
yeah.
and
That's a
try to
hell
go
of a
that route.
prediction, George. That's a
Yeah,
hell of a
well,
prediction.
it's not going to shock me at all if that happens, okay?
Yeah.
Because Facebook's going to look at this, Twitter's going to look at this, and they're going to be like, "Oh yeah." It's kind of like Uber, right? When they try
Right.
to do, and with Uber's a totally different scenario, because I absolutely agree Uber should be left as a contracting, leave it between the individuals, negotiating their wages. But it's kind of the same in a sense where when they try to get on Uber, Uber just goes, "Well, we're not in your city anymore," and they just leave.
Right. Got it. Goes to
And then
yeah.
it's like, who gets hurt? The people get hurt, because they're never going to pay wages. That they don't make money now. They're not gonna start paying $15 an hour and whatnot, or guaranteeing $15 an hour. Same thing's going to happen with Facebook and them, in my opinion. We'll see, right? Nobody's Nostradamus, but that's the way I would see it going. They're going to say, all right, you want to make us liable for following our policies and not be able to make up our own policies? No problem. We're going to leave. Nobody, all IP addresses in Florida are not going to be able to link to Facebook. Now, mind you, the end result will probably be Florida will be a better place.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Well, look, there are no doubt DeSantis is a leader. And if
Yeah,
he's taking action and he's
he is.
stepping up to the plate, you can bet there'll be other people that'll follow. So, Facebook may very well do that, and it may cause some complaints. But when the second batter comes to the plate and the third batter comes to the plate, now you're talking about revenues dropping. And really, at the end of the day, they should be concerned about making money as a corporation. And it's time to turn that around. Go
They
back
are,
to
Jack.
go back to what you do, and that's
That never
making money.
changed, though. It's not like, and maybe some of them are. I don't know every single CEO's, personal. I'm not in their head, but I do know that the way, generally speaking and historically speaking, these corporations work, They don't really give a shit one way. If they thought the GOP had a backbone and the GOP was in power, the GOP was using the government as a weapon and doing shit like the way the friggin' the left does. They do whatever the GOP wanted. Like
So let me ask you this then. Do you think Zuckerberg gave that $30 million to a nonprofit that got involved in Wisconsin's election processes? Do you think he did that as a business move or as a personal,
it's a
you know,
business move.
a
They're
social
all
warrior?
business moves. Look. I mean, Zuckerberg is a young little flaky dude with no real CEO metal. Like he's just a dude that got really wealthy, off a good idea, and he's not someone that is anything other than Facebook. And this guy's like he's never going to leave Facebook and become a CEO somewhere else. Like that's never
Right,
going to happen. He's
right,
locked in. All he's going to be able to do, and the only reason they're letting him do it at Facebook is because he owned it, right? He's got the most shares.
right,
But now that it's public, he's got the most shares. But like in the end, if that wasn't the case, nobody's hiring Zuckerberg to run their company. Like that shit's
right.
just not going to happen. Any of these asshats, nobody's hiring any of them. They all got into their positions because they were the first ones on a platform that went viral, and now they're worth all this money. But it's not like if Twitter went bankrupt or if there was a hostile takeover of Twitter that somehow this guy's going to get hired as the CEO of Pepsi or something.
Right,
Like
right.
they'd be
Yeah,
laughing stocks in that way.
yeah,
So, but in the end, it's still generally about money. Like, again, and David Rubin did a great interview with this former chief operating officer of PayPal, where he was kind of articulating some of this stuff. Where what he's saying is they're getting pressure from the top, from the government. They've got these young people getting poisoned by critical theory on the bottom, which are their employees, right? So they got their employees coming up from the bottom, the government coming in from the top. They know the GOP is spineless, so they know the GOP is not, there's no power move getting made by the righteous, put it that way. The GOP is all split up in a million different directions. They're not even close to the level of organization the left brings in.
right.
And so what do? What do you do? I mean, this is, Trump paid Clinton, right? Trump paid off Hillary Clinton. Why? Because he was building things in New York. And
Yeah,
if you're going to
and
build things in New York, you need to kiss the ring of the senator.
yeah. Otherwise, it takes you 10 years to get it built instead of 6 months.
Yeah, good luck getting your building permits.
Right,
You'll never pass environmental standards. Like all that shit's in place. They don't give a shit about the environmental standards. I mean, I'm sure lower level people are really into it, but that's not why that stuff gets in there.
right,
Look, every single business is violating like thousands of codes every day because it's impossible for any one person to be able to follow all these codes. When you get big enough, that's what the codes are there for. Now, I don't mean building codes and like, safety stuff. I'm talking about just, you can't even wrap your head around how many friggin' laws and regulations are out there. And the fact is, as soon as you get big enough that you want to step out of line, this is where, it depends on your
code
industry, right?
142 on page
Yeah,
3015.
3,600.
Yeah,
And the big guys, they got teams and teams, they got whole divisions that do nothing but sift through this jargon all day long to try. And even if they get out of line, even with these teams and teams of people to try and keep up with it all, they'd still get
yeah.
him. They'd still get him.
Hey, let's move on to number two
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you touched on it and you talked a little bit about antitrust. So I'm going to read from the bill, word for word. The bill establishes restrictions for receiving economic benefits or contracting with public entities for certain social media platforms who have violated antitrust laws and who have been placed on the antitrust violator vendor list. Now, we need to know a little bit more about that, but I think we can probably ascertain a few things from that statement that are important.
Yeah, most people are looking at that and going, I don't understand how you're going antitrust here. There's, there's Facebook's not the only one, right? There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Google Plus retired, but there's MeWe and Parler, and so I don't get it. How is it antitrust? There's competition. It's the collusion. So
Right.
it's the collusion. This is where they went off the rails and where they crossed the line, and it's 100% illegal to collude that way. When they took Donald Trump off, when they disbanded his account, if it would have just been Twitter, it would have been fine. Twitter's well within its rights to throw anyone off it wants. However, when every single media platform in that category come together and collude against an individual, there are tons of antitrust laws that are getting violated with that. And it's a very interesting angle that was taken by DeSantis and company and their legislature to attack it this way, because it is true. It
Yeah,
is true.
it absolutely
And
is.
it's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because again, maybe they all just pull out of Florida, maybe, but again, I don't know that that's a bad thing for Florida either. But in the
Right.
end, like, this is where I was saying earlier, these companies, these are utilities, these companies. You would never, it is 100% illegal for the phone company to isolate you because of something you said and shut off your telephone service. It's 100% illegal. It's a private company. The telephone, Ma Bell was a private company. She could turn around, if she turned around and said, you know what, I'm just not giving it to you because we don't like what you talk about on the phone. Well,
Right.
that's illegal. That's illegal.
Well,
Why?
I would
Because
compare this more
utilities are
to
regulated.
what would be a good comparison to, let's say, TV? Because a phone is private conversation. Social media is a platform where your voice is exposed to not only the people that you know, but strangers. Um,
Okay, so it would, but what, so you can't have a telephone company say you're not allowed to do conference calls because we don't like your messaging.
yeah,
I mean,
okay,
you can scale it up to whatever you want. It's just as illegal. It doesn't make a difference, who you're talking to or whatnot.
right,
They're regulated because they're considered a necessary utility. And the reality is, so is social media right now. It's
yeah,
ignorant to sit back and be like, everyone could just get off the social media. You really can't. If you have a business, you have to be on there. You
right.
can't afford to
No,
not advertise it.
that's a very valid point. I was sitting there. You just connected a dot for me, and as you typically do. But I mean, that's a dynamite point. Fact of the matter is, I mean, you can't run a business without utilizing social media.
It's the
And
same as telling someone,
yeah,
just get rid of your phone. Just never use the phone again. I
right,
don't understand. What's the problem? You don't like it, just never use your phone again.
right,
Like, you
right,
can't do that. You need to use your phone. So, like, there's just, that's what crosses the line into utility. And frankly, they would have gotten away with this fine. Like no harm, no foul. Everyone would have left this be. But then they had to start colluding and getting political and start going after politicians and doing the one-sided, we're picking people's points of view. And this is what they also wrote in here, is that they were specific about these social media companies needing to be very specific about the policy that was violated. Because
right,
what they do now is they just make shit up and then only take off conservative speech. So the
right.
bill's not saying you can't, there has to be a clear rule written if you want to do that, that we are going to attack conservative speech. You violated our policy because your speech is conservative.
You can't put up, say, give me a speeding ticket if there's no sign posted, right?
Right. If there's no
So,
speeding limit anywhere, you can't just leave signs off the road and then be like, well, they should just know.
yeah, yeah,
Let-
yeah, without a
So,
doubt.
so in the end, if you're going to cut off a major form of communication, again, it being a vital form of communication in today's day and age, and this has really grown into this. So this is new territory.
Right,
It's new territory. 10 years ago, this wouldn't even be a conversation. But 10 years ago, they weren't colluding and getting together to lock certain voices, select voices on a political basis Like they got themselves in this mess, basically, is what happened.
Right.
They got
Right.
themselves into this mess. They could have, everyone was cool with just letting it fly and not treating them like a utility and not doing any of that. And then what do? They go and I, again, there's a part of me that believes that this was a political play, that they had to do these things, that they didn't have a choice. Like, I still don't believe that the CEOs just started to think this way on their own.
Yeah.
Like you can't prove that kind of stuff. So I ain't sitting there telling you there's a link below, giving it to you. I'm just telling you what I've always believed, that
Right.
companies don't act that way.
Right.
Politicians are the powerful, not the companies. Corporations have more power than you do because they have money. But money only brings so much power. Like there's a limit to the amount, like all you can,
Yeah.
it may give you more access to the club. It may get you into some exclusive places. You may even be able to, schmooze some minor tax breaks for yourself or things like that, or even some big tax breaks for yourself, right? But in the end, you don't sweat the person paying the money. This is an old street rule. It's the person who's getting paid. It's the
Without a
person who
doubt.
has the power to come in and say, you need to pay me, right? That's how you get somebody like Donald Trump, who doesn't agree with anything Hillary Clinton does, paying her for years. Because with all of his money, and he's in the billions, he wasn't more powerful
He
than
doesn't have
Hillary
the
Clinton.
power. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't more powerful than Hillary Clinton. If he
The
was, he would
protection
say,
racket.
screw you.
Yeah. No kidding. Hey, let me read this last one to you.
Yeah.
This one is interesting as well. So, a user of social media platform may bring a private cause of action against a social media platform for failing to apply consistently certain standards and for censoring or deplatforming without proper notice. So it kind of ties into what we were just talking about a
Yep.
few moments ago, but it brings it down to the individual user. So one of our pieces, we put it
And
out
this is
there.
why I think Facebook may just kill all IP addresses in Florida.
Mhm.
Because now that, and he signed this today. So it's not like someone just proposed this today. Like they drew
Right.
this thing up,
This is
the
law.
legislature passed it and he
Yeah.
signed it. Like it's law right now.
Yep.
It's law. That's why we're on talking about this, because this is law right now in Florida. So the
I'm gonna put,
reaction
by
is
the
going to
way,
be
I'm gonna put the
fascinating.
PDF. I'm gonna put the PDF in the notes for the YouTube video, and I'll put it on our website as well. This way, people can read it for themselves, because I think
Yeah, for sure.
that's
And,
important. At least a summary.
right, and that's, look, they're tying specific fines and lawsuits. So now, look, here's the downside of this bill, right? Because there is a downside,
Yeah.
because it's going to create chaos, especially when we're talking about the citizens of a truly free state,
Right.
right? Like a state like Florida, like they don't listen to any of this bullshit. They've been living the dream there while we're still walking around like schmucks, like we're in some freaking 1984 movie. These people are walking around like living it up, chilling at the beach, hanging, watching the news.
Yeah.
Like
And what do we have?
look at California, they're still doing it.
Yeah. What's our date? June 15th. What's special
Bro, they
about June
probably,
15th?
in places like Florida and Texas, they've probably forgotten that the rest of the country is still doing this shit.
Yeah.
Like I went to Sprouts the other day, and I went there because I know in advance that they don't require masks. So I said, you know what? I don't need to go to Vons or Ralph's. I'll go to Sprouts because I want to. Not that I'm boycotting anyone. I'm just like, you know what? I want to reward them for being sane.
Right.
And to do that in an insane world like this. So I go there and I'm going through, and this is funny. So I'm walking around and I'm just loving life, right? Because I'm like, and everyone's super nice. Like all the staff were super nice. Like I was waiting, right? Because I'm so used to it. I'm just waiting for that one mask Nazi to come running out, like, sir, But like, no, it never happened. The
Like
guy
in
at the
Costco,
deli
you get
counter,
surrounded by 8 kids.
yeah. So the guy at the deli counter is super nice. Hey, what can I do for you? Placed my order, let them start working on it. Went to go get some more stuff, and it was great. And as I'm walking through, you know what it felt like when I was walking through?
What?
Yeah, what's that movie with Roddy Piper?
I'm not a big movie guy. You know that.
Bro, he's walking around and all those people have like the signs really say obey and conform. And you never seen this? What is it called? It's killing me
Oh,
right now. Anyway, there's a movie where Roddy Piper is like, he puts on these glasses, and when he puts them on,
they all look like skeletons to
yeah,
me,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And like when he puts them on, like the billboard that might have been for Pepsi or something, he puts it on and it's just all white with the black word conform written on it. And he takes them off and it's back to a Pepsi billboard again. And like when the alien people or whatever, they will start to realize that he's got these glasses, they all like as he's walking, they all start looking at him, like this guy, I think he can see us, like that's what I felt like walking through Sprouts. Everyone in there self-imposing, right? Like it doesn't matter. They're like, you don't have to wear a mask. No. I want to. I want to wear the mask. Like they're so they're so socialized, and it's amazing to me. But then again, I started to realize maybe they all think that you still have to, right? That's what I started thinking to myself. But as I'm walking around, no, they're looking at me like oh my, like they almost went. It was actually really cool because people stayed the hell away from me, and that was outstanding. But one lady looked at me and was like, "Oh, good for you. I should just take my." I was like, "You don't have to wear it." She was like, "What?" Rips the thing ripped off her ear. She just like ripped it off. She was like, serious? They lifted that thing? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh my God, thank you for telling me. She's like, because I can't stand wearing this stupid thing. And it's like, how many people are just walking around with it because,
Doing it anyway.
yeah, it's just what they do, right?
Yeah, it
So
is.
in a
It is.
state like that in Florida, where they've been living the dream forever, now they got the ability to sue Facebook. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how many lawsuits and how many are going to be frivolous, right? Like how many of them had it coming, right? Like, and just anybody who gets this, like, it's not like a fake news or anything like that.
Right.
Like, it's just some guy putting up some gross pornographic shit or something like that, and now he's suing. Like now the legal system's going to be tied up with all this friggin', it's going to get insane. Like I don't know that
Well,
there's a way
yeah.
to manage that. It would have to be class action. Like it would just have to be a large class action suit.
Well,
But
according to what I could see here, it's on an individual basis. It doesn't
right,
have
but
to be
anything on an individual
private.
basis can be made class action.
Oh, it can
So
be. Yeah. Well, the
yeah,
lawyers love class action
right,
lawsuits.
right,
Let's get everybody in. I'll win. They all get a dime, and I walk away with millions.
right.
You
I
know,
mean, but you know what? In this case, I don't think the people will care. They're not doing it for the money, right? Like people would just be doing it
they
just
want
to
to
stick it
punish
to them.
them. They
Yeah,
want to
just to stick
punish
it to
them.
them.
Yep. You take
And,
out their
and
frustrations. Hopefully, they don't pull a 180 and get upset and take it out on DeSantis.
no,
Oh, you caused this. That because that would be wrong. They need to stick with their guy.
that's
And
not
they
gonna
need to
happen.
yeah.
It's
No,
not
I
going to
hope
happen,
not.
bro.
I hope
Bro,
not.
they're looking at the rest of the country live like freaking animals right now. It's like literally, like there are states that are literally like a zoo with a bunch of trained animals just walking around. If you're living in Texas or dude, Texas Rangers have sold out ball games. Like they literally have just blown, they're just like F all of you. Like they're not just saying F Fauci, they're going out to the ball game. Like it's not like it's a political thing. Like people are just done. They're just mentally done with it and they're going out and living their lives. And the rest of us idiots have to sit in our states that suck and watch them all enjoying themselves and posting their fun on Facebook while we're still getting yelled at a freaking gas station counter because we didn't have a mask on.
Well,
When
whatever.
they've been like this for months.
I
They've been
know.
like this for months
I
to the
know. I
point where the
know.
CDC had to remove and that's the beauty of the United States, right? Because if everybody obeyed, the CDC would still have everybody wearing masks. But there's only so long the Floridas and South Carolinas and Texases can exist before you start going,
The
oh, wait
cork
a
comes
minute.
out of the bottle. It's like
Yeah,
the
wait
pressure's
a
been
minute. So
built
they're
up.
all
You've been shaking that bottle of champagne for a while. Well, you
right.
just touch it with your thumb and it's gone. It's going through the roof. So,
Yeah,
hey,
it's so. I mean, there's only so long this can go on before people just start watching and going. But there were 55,000 people in that stadium, all enjoying a baseball game, and I can't go and pick up some Swiss cheese without freaking wearing a mask. Like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what? Like, eventually, even the worst of the sheep start coming together, and the CDC just started friggin' figuring that out. We're like, you know what? All right, there's only so much longer we're gonna get away with this shit. Let's just go
Yeah.
ahead, tell them
They
they don't
gotta
have
wait
to
for
wear
all
them.
their kids to grow up because they're training the kids.
Oh,
The
they're
adults
trying
are,
to, but you know what
yeah, they're
though? A
trying.
lot of these kids, like a lot of these kids, there's still a lot of good youth coming up. You know, there's
Yeah.
still a lot of promising
No, I
youth.
know.
Look, parents, and there are a lot of them out there because parents were not hip to this shit then. This
Right.
critical theory's been getting pumped to them for years now. Like, no one knew about it, right? I didn't learn about it until this year. Like, I didn't realize this freakazoid Ivermex Kendi. I didn't even know who he was before like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, whatever we did the show. Like, when I did the research on the show, that's when I discovered that asshat. And then I started reading his stuff, and I'm just like, really? Like, really? Like, this, somebody read this and was like, yeah, let's put it in the school. Like, this is good. Let's make a whole class around it. How about that? That's going to be awesome. Like what's next? Like Mein Kampf and the misunderstood life of Adolf Hitler? Like,
Depends how much money the federal government dangles in
yeah,
front of these
yeah,
school boards. Hey, we want you to implement this,
crazy.
and
It's
we need to
crazy.
get money. So if you want the money, here's what we want done.
It's
Right?
crazy. I'm just freaking out over the whole thing. I'm excited to see this get passed
So
because I
much.
don't know where it's going to end. I don't know where legally it can and can't go. I know Florida could do whatever the hell it wants.
Yep.
So, in the end, if it results in Facebook leaving Florida, that makes the story even more intriguing. And we'll see. We'll see how this lands. But I can't imagine that Facebook's just gonna stay there and open themselves up to all these lawsuits.
You know what? Regardless, this is a step in the right direction.
I agree.
Yep, it's a step in the right direction. We need more leaders like DeSantis
We do.
to jump in because
We
we're
do.
going to lose freedom piece by
And
piece by
they
piece.
didn't pass this. Well, no, that's not true. They passed it for the reasons they passed it, but it really was more of a statement than anything else. They're basically saying we're blazing a path here. Like,
Right.
we're showing the country how to get this done. We're going to
Yeah.
throw this out there. It's an experiment. Let's see what we can get away with, right? Let's see how much we can implement here and what the reaction is. Does it hurt Facebook too much to blow off a whole state? You know what I mean? Because you could bet your ass there's going to be like 4, 5, 6 more states that do this.
Mm-hmm. Without a
But so
doubt.
now what happens? You're going to have whole states who can't communicate with their family via social media on Facebook anymore or
They'll
on
find a
Twitter
new,
anymore.
they'll find a new way.
Then they will start flocking to MeWe. Then they will start flocking to the other sites. And I don't know that Facebook wants to see that path gone down either,
Yeah.
because they're not going to stay off of social media. Like,
No,
they're
they'll
going to
find
get on.
another path.
So
They'll
it's going to
find
be
another
either
path.
Facebook's decision is going to be, all right, and it's crazy to say, but it's like, do we have clear policies or do we just pull out? Right? And that's what the two choices are going to be. Do we have clear policies where we have to actually tell someone why we're canceling them, or not, why we're taking their stuff down, or why we're not circulating their information, or does it have to be because they're monetized by stuff like that too? So it's a very tangly web. Like, it. So now, are they going to try and force them? Like MeWe, if you're on MeWe and you have followers on your page, unlike Facebook, you pay MeWe a monthly fee, but unlike Facebook, everybody who's following you will see your posts.
Yeah, and you'll see the same ads. They're going to advertise
Right,
sneakers or
right.
whatever. They're not going to have all your history.
With
say
MeWe
that
is
you
the
look at
product.
sneakers. Huh?
With MeWe is the product. And
MeWe
with
is the
Facebook,
product.
you are the product.
Okay, sure.
And that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, everyone sees your stuff. So if like all of Florida and all of South Carolina and all of Texas and all of, these are big states, and we're all interwoven. So, like, if you can't get in touch with someone through Facebook, like, the second Facebook starts getting dismantled in that way, where they have to pull out of these states, and now there's no access. Well, how many people in California know people in Texas? Hell, half of California just moved to
Yeah,
Texas
they just
recently,
moved there. They're trying
right?
to stop them. They're like,
So
no, no more
yeah,
Californians.
yeah,
You
and all
know?
their families here. So now it's
Yeah.
not just the people in Texas who are making a switch. And I keep saying MeWe. Maybe there's other ones. MeWe was just the one that came to mind.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I'm
like,
sure there
but
are.
I'm using it as an example. But like, so everyone from Texas now that wants to communicate with the people in California, with their family and everyone else, they can't. So what
Right.
happens? Now the people in California got to get on MeWe. And
Yeah, yeah,
even
that's a
though
good point. Yeah,
California
yeah.
doesn't have like it's all interconnected. Like the whole thing starts to break down. If like it's going to be fascinating to watch this over the next few months and see what direction everyone goes.
Oh,
Because
the tangled webs we weave.
yes, indeed, sir. Yes,
Oh,
indeed.
the tangled webs.
But I do believe 110% that this is the very first step of Facebook, Twitter, social media in general starting to be considered a utility. And they're going to start treating them that way. And it's going to start, and because you can't just pick one or the other, it's going to be a blanket thing. It's going to be like, hey, you know what? We regulate telephone service. We regulate almost every form of mass information in existence. And there's the idea that internet, the social media was exempt from it for so long. I was an advocate of it for a long time until the collusion and the craziness started. And
Right.
now the true power of these companies is starting, like controlling information, right? Malcolm X had that big quote about the media and being the most powerful thing because they control information. And that's
Yep.
more important than controlling money. That's more important than controlling anything. If you control information, you control everything.
Right.
And in the end, what they've demonstrated in not just social media, Google through its search practices and the way that it manipulates search items and the way that it, beyond the business model, right? Like they're doing creepy stuff beyond the business model. The way they on YouTube are shutting down, and they're going to be affected by this too on YouTube. But I'm also pretty sure that they go in here. I got to read it more. But I thought I heard this afternoon from DeSantis and company that they were going after Google search practices as well. So this should be interesting, like I said, to see unfold.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm excited about it.